There are people who enter your life not to bring light, but to test the fire within your soul. Narcissists are harsh lessons, forcing us to look deeply into ourselves, into our fears, anger, and sometimes even feelings of helplessness. But what if you stopped seeing them as enemies and instead viewed them as opportunities to strengthen yourself? Stoic philosophy teaches us the one who controls your emotions is your master. So rather than resisting them with anger or pain, we learn to use indifference, the most powerful weapon to reclaim control over our lives. Let them linger in their game of manipulation while you become the unmovable rock in the storm. In today's video, we will explore 9 things that make narcissists a narcissist miserable, not to defeat them, but to free yourself from their control. Remember, the most important victory is not over them, but over yourself. Let's begin the journey to reclaim your mental freedom right now. The lack of recognition, the ultimate pain of a narcissist. Narcissists don't just crave attention, they depend on it. Like a fire that cannot burn without fuel, they cannot sustain their ego without external validation. This makes them desperate for attention to the point where they don't differentiate between praise and criticism. As long as you react, they feel important. But what they fear and despise most isn't criticism or hatred, it's indifference. When you ignore them, you're not only denying them the attention they need, but also shattering the illusion that they have control over your emotions. Indifference is a fatal wound to a narcissist because it forces them to confront their own emptiness. They don't know how to cultivate a sense of self-worth internally. Their existence relies entirely on manipulating others' reactions to bolster their fragile ego. When you stop recognizing them, you strip away the power they believe they have, forcing them to face a painful reality. They are no longer the center of the world, and more importantly, they no longer control you. Dealing with a narcissist is a test of patience and self-control, but it's also an opportunity to practice one of the core principles of Stoicism, mastering your own reactions. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. By choosing not to react to a narcissist's manipulations, you not only deprive them of the energy that fuels their ego, but also reclaim control over your own mind and emotions. Indifference here doesn't mean coldness or neglect, but a conscious strategy. When a narcissist tries to provoke you, instead of arguing or reacting, stay calm and respond briefly if necessary. Learn to remain confidently silent, because your silence is not just a statement that they no longer hold power. It's also a way to reaffirm your autonomy. At the same time, shift your focus away from them and back to yourself. Instead of spending energy on their dramas, invest it in your own life. Pursue meaningful goals, care for your mental health, and build healthier relationships. Indifference not only makes a narcissist suffer, it's your way out of the emotional vortex they impose. When you stop playing their game, you don't just disarm them, you free yourself. In Stoic philosophy, true power doesn't lie in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. And when you achieve that, you don't just surpass them, you become the strongest and freest version of yourself. So what do you think? Have you ever dealt with a narcissist? What did you do to regain control over your emotions? Share your story or thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you and learn from your experiences. The truth. A light that exposes the darkness of a narcissist. Narcissists live in a world where truth is distorted to serve their interests. They weave narratives around themselves with flowery language and exaggerated emotions to mask inner contradictions and bolster the perfect image they want others to believe. To them, the truth is not just a challenge, it's a direct threat to the fragile ego they've meticulously constructed. When you present the truth clearly and without emotional charge, you're holding up a mirror to the very things they strive to hide. And that causes them more anguish than any insult ever could. Narcissists are unaccustomed to the language of truth because they spend their lives avoiding it. They leverage cognitive empathy, the ability to read and understand others' emotions, as a tool to navigate and manipulate. But when confronted with truth that is calm, objective, and emotionless, they lose their advantage. The truth not only confuses them but also makes them feel a loss of control, their greatest fear. This is why narcissists often react to truth with emotional escalation, yelling, anger, or blame shifting to distract you from the core issue. Stoic philosophy teaches that truth doesn't need to be argued or defended, it stands firm on its own. We suffer not because of the truth, but because of how we face it, Marcus Aurelius once wrote. When dealing with a narcissist, speaking the truth is not about changing them because the likelihood of them accepting or changing is minimal, but about reaffirming your values and boundaries. Present the truth briefly, without emotion, and with unwavering consistency. This not only strips them of their manipulative power, but also helps you maintain inner peace. In a relationship with a narcissist, clinging to emotions while trying to explain or argue is a road to exhaustion. They will exploit every emotion you display to twist the narrative in their favor. But when you rely on truth not as a weapon, but as a guiding compass, you shield yourself from their vortex. Imagine this: instead of reacting to blame or hurtful words, you simply respond with straightforward and objective truth. You don't engage in arguments or feel the need to prove yourself. You stand your ground without getting drawn into their emotional drama. This not only disorients them, but also gives you a solid mental foundation, one that cannot be shaken by their manipulations. Narcissists despise truth because it makes them feel small and powerless. But for you, truth is a source of strength, a light to step out of the shadow of manipulation. It's not a tool to defeat them, but a path to liberate yourself. When you choose truth over argument, you not only make them suffer, but also free yourself from the pain and exhaustion of a toxic relationship. By holding on to truth, you protect your peace, reclaim your power, and pave the way for a life free from the emotional turmoil they try to impose. Truth isn't just about exposing their darkness, it's about illuminating your own path to freedom. Authority, the greatest threat to a narcissist. Narcissists don't just fear authority, they despise it. Their nature thrives on the desire for control and superiority. They cannot tolerate being accountable to anyone or adhering to rules that aren't of their own making. Authority, whether it comes from a leader, a legal system, or even the boundaries you set, shakes the belief they've built for themselves that they are at the center and beyond question. Imagine a workplace scenario where a narcissist refuses to follow basic instructions from a manager. Instead of cooperating, they respond with defensiveness, excuses, or personal attacks. Why should I do that? They have no right to tell me what to do. This mindset not only makes them difficult to work with, but also reveals their underlying fear that they are not good enough or cannot control everything. Authority challenges the grandiose image they've constructed, forcing them to face the truth that they are not above everyone else. In personal relationships, authority often takes the form of boundaries when you say enough or hold them accountable for their actions. Instead of accepting this, narcissists will attempt to break those boundaries by ignoring them, dismissing them, or making you feel guilty for standing up. For example, you might set a simple rule like, "I will not respond to disrespectful messages." The result: they'll continuously provoke you, using emotions to push you into reacting. Their goal is not to understand your boundaries, but to test how far they can break them. Stoic philosophy teaches that true authority isn't about controlling others, but about mastering oneself. When dealing with a narcissist, your goal isn't to make them admit fault or comply with your authority. This is nearly impossible. Instead, focus on maintaining your calm and acting with consistency. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do what's right. Don't be distracted by what others say." When you set boundaries, do so not to change them, but to protect your own values. Exercising personal authority requires confident action without seeking their approval. If they respond with anger or contempt, don't react emotionally. A simple response like, "I understand how you feel, but this is my decision," enough to assert your position without being drawn into an argument. Remember, true authority lies in your ability to stand firm without needing validation from others. Narcissists fear authority because it exposes their limitations and lack of control. But for you, authority is a tool to rebuild self-respect and freedom. Don't be afraid to assert ownership of your life, even if it makes them uncomfortable. This brings us to one of the greatest challenges in dealing with a narcissist: handling rejection. How do you say no without being pulled into their manipulation? Let's explore that in the next section. If you find these insights helpful, Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue this journey of self-discovery and reclaiming peace in relationships. This is your moment to transform your life. Being rejected. The narcissist's nightmare. For narcissists, rejection is not merely a no. It is a direct challenge to their fragile ego, a shock that leaves them feeling out of control. They believe they are entitled to everything and that no one has the right to prevent them from getting what they want. When you say no, you not only shatter their expectations but also break the illusion that they always have control over you. This not only makes them angry but also confuses them, as they struggle to comprehend how you, someone they perceive as beneath them, dare to say no. Imagine a familiar scenario. A narcissist asks you to change your plans to accommodate them. When you calmly refuse, they may respond with rage, try to guilt trip you, or even escalate the situation into an argument to pressure you into changing your decision. This is not ordinary frustration but a typical narcissistic reaction. They cannot tolerate being limited or controlled by anyone but themselves. Stoic philosophy offers a different perspective on rejection. It is not a battle but a test of your resolve. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Keep your mind calm and steady, like a fortress unshaken by external storms." When rejecting a narcissist, do so with calmness and decisiveness. Say no not to provoke them but to protect your boundaries. This not only helps you maintain control over your life but also sends a clear message that you are not easily manipulated. Avoid over-explaining your refusal. Simplicity is your strength. Statements like "that doesn't work for me," or "I can't do that right now" convey your message without giving them room to exploit your emotions. When they try to provoke you, remember that their anger or blame is not your responsibility. It is simply their reaction to losing control, and you don't need to engage in that conflict. Rejection is not about hurting them but about affirming your own value and freedom. It is an essential step in reclaiming yourself and breaking free from their influence. However, rejection can also trigger manipulative tactics or retaliatory behavior. How can you face such reactions without losing your peace? Let's delve into this further in the next section, as the journey to self-liberation demands profound understanding and great patience. Imposing consequences. The ultimate blow to a narcissist's control. Narcissists fear consequences because they force them to confront a reality they continuously evade. They are not invincible. In their minds, every mistake is someone else's fault, and when you hold them accountable, it not only challenges their control but also exposes the helplessness they desperately try to conceal. By imposing consequences, whether it's withdrawing from an argument or firmly maintaining your boundaries, you not only strip away their power but also compel them to recognize that the world doesn't operate on their terms. Consider a familiar scenario. You ask them to stop a harmful behavior, such as yelling at you. You calmly state, "If you continue, I will leave." When you follow through, the narcissist may not only react with anger but also attempt to manipulate you. They might call you selfish, insensitive, or even blame you for their behavior. This is not regret or misunderstanding. It's strategy. Their aim is to make you feel guilty so you retract your boundary, restoring the control they believe they are entitled to. However, Stoic philosophy teaches that imposing consequences is not about changing them, it's about protecting yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be not troubled by the actions of others, for you are the master of your own peace." Consequences are not punishment, they are a way to safeguard your self-worth and dignity. When you enforce them with calmness and certainty, you not only affirm control over your own life, but also weaken their influence over you. Narcissists often react intensely when faced with consequences, but their reaction is not a reason for you to back down. Anger, accusations, or even cold silence are merely tactics to shake your resolve. Remember, their reaction says nothing about your value but reveals their fear of losing control. When you stand firm, you not only set boundaries but also send a message that they cannot break you. Imposing consequences is a critical step in reclaiming control of your life. It is a decisive act that demonstrates you will no longer tolerate toxic behaviors or be drawn into the emotional whirlwind they create. This also sets the stage for one of the most unsettling outcomes for them: failure. How do you navigate their bitterness and retaliatory actions when they don't get what they want? Let's explore this further in the next section. If you've read this far, leave a 1 in the comments to show that you are ready to break free from these toxic boundaries and reclaim your peace. Failure. The mirror reflecting a narcissist's true nature. Have you ever observed a young child playing a game and noticed how they react when they lose? Some cry, others yell, or even blame the game. While such behavior might seem innocent, it closely mirrors how narcissists handle failure. The difference, of course, is that narcissists are not children. They are adults with fragile egos who cannot bear the feeling of being inferior to others. Failure, even in the smallest matters, serves as a stark reminder that they are not perfect, invincible, or always in control of outcomes. It is not only a severe blow to their pride, but also a reflection of their true nature, a person reliant on others' admiration and validation to mask deep-seated insecurities. This explains why they may overreact, make excuses, or even distort the truth to avoid admitting their failures. Imagine being in a debate with a narcissist, and the facts clearly show they are wrong. Instead of accepting their mistake, they will go to great lengths to shift the conversation, blame you, or declare, "This doesn't matter." These tactics are not just about hiding their failure, they are also about maintaining control over the relationship. Stoic philosophy offers a different approach to dealing with their failures. Instead of trying to force them to admit their mistake, which is almost impossible, focus on staying calm and not letting their emotions influence you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not let the actions of others rob you of your peace. Focus on what you can control." In this situation, what you can control is your reaction. When they try to deflect or deny their mistakes, refuse to engage in their games. If they deny their failure, you don't need to prove otherwise. The truth does not require argument, it stands on its own. Instead, respond briefly and calmly. "I disagree, but I won't argue further." This approach helps you maintain your position while depriving them of tools to manipulate you. Narcissists despise failure because it reminds them they are not the perfect figure they strive to make others believe they are. But this is not your responsibility. Do not attempt to change them, and do not let their inability to cope with failure disrupt your peace. Instead, focus on building your own emotional resilience. For in Stoicism, true strength lies in mastering your own emotions, regardless of the storms around you. This leads us to one of a narcissist's greatest fears, public humiliation. How can you handle their outbursts when they feel their pride has been threatened? Let's delve into this in the next section. Public humiliation, when the ego crumbles. Narcissists build their lives around a carefully crafted image of perfection where they are always superior, always right, and always admired. But when public humiliation strikes, when a comment, an action, or a revealed truth exposes their flaws in front of others, the carefully constructed ego begins to crumble. For them, this is not just a temporary wound. Public embarrassment is a direct blow to the false identity they used to mask their deep insecurities. You may have witnessed this. A narcissist boasts about their knowledge or accomplishments in a social gathering, only for someone to gently point out an inaccuracy or exaggeration in their story. The result is often an overreaction. They might attack the other person, dismiss the issue entirely, or even storm off in anger. All of this stems from their fear of being exposed, the fear that others will see they are not as great as they pretend to be. For those in relationships with narcissists, these moments can feel chaotic. Their outbursts of anger or hostility are not rooted in the actual issue, but in their perceived threat to their pride. However, you don't need to be drawn into their emotional spiral. Stoic philosophy teaches us, the person who controls their mind is truly free. When faced with their outburst, maintain your composure. Remember, their reaction does not define your worth. It reflects their insecurity. Instead of responding with anger or attempting to humiliate them further, choose calmness and self-control. A simple statement like, "I see your perspective," or even silence can help you maintain your autonomy without escalating the situation. By choosing not to react, you shield yourself from their manipulative tactics and send a powerful message. You are not reliant on their approval or control. Narcissists despise public humiliation because it makes them feel small and powerless. But that is not your burden to bear. Your calm demeanor is your way of affirming that you won't be drawn into their meaningless battles. In moments when their ego crumbles, you don't have to be the one to rebuild it, be the one who chooses peace for yourself. Ultimately, the true power lies in your hands, not theirs. Protecting your sense of self and maintaining your inner peace will always outweigh engaging in their games. Commitment. The chains a narcissist will never wear. To a narcissist, commitment is not a moral responsibility or a sacred promise. It is merely a tool, a convenient facade to keep you around and make you believe the relationship holds genuine value. Narcissists excel at creating the illusion of loyalty. They say the words you've longed to hear, making promises that sound as though they could change the world. But in reality, their commitment lasts only as long as it serves their self-interest. When things get tough or stop benefiting them, that commitment vanishes like a shadow. Think back. How many times have you heard them promise to change, to listen to you more, to make things different this time? And how many times have you been left with the disappointment of those promises dissolving as if they had never existed? To a narcissist, promises hold no real significance. They are the nets they use to keep you from leaving, to make you keep sacrificing your time, emotions, and sometimes even yourself for something they never intended to fulfill. Dr. Ramani Durvasula, a prominent psychologist specializing in narcissism, once said, "A narcissist doesn't love you, they love how you make them feel about themselves." Their promises and actions revolve around self-gratification, not building a lasting relationship with you. This doesn't mean you are undeserving of loyalty or genuine love. It simply means they are incapable or unwilling to provide it. You don't need to fix them because you can't. Instead, focus on what you can control yourself. When confronted with their empty promises, don't allow yourself to be swept away by hope. Pay attention to their actions, not their words. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "We cannot expect people to act beyond their nature, but we can choose how we respond to it." If their actions don't align with their promises, let the truth guide you. Setting boundaries is not about hurting them, it's about protecting yourself. If they continue to break promises, give yourself permission to step away from the cycle. Don't let them make you feel as though you are asking for too much or being selfish for desiring a relationship built on genuine commitment. That's not selfish, it's self-love. Narcissists hate genuine commitment because it requires responsibility and giving, things they cannot sustain for long. But the most important thing isn't their inability to commit, it's that you don't have to wait for them to change. The most meaningful commitment you can make isn't to them, it's to your own life. Commit to living freely, valuing yourself, and never settling for less than what you deserve. Vulnerability, the shield a narcissist will never lower. Vulnerability is a fundamental part of being human. It is where trust, empathy, and genuine love originate. But for narcissists, vulnerability is not an aspect of life they embrace. They see it as a threat, a weakness that must be concealed at all costs. In their minds, exposing vulnerability equates to losing control, and that is something they can never accept. You may have experienced this when you attempt to share deep emotions, hoping to build a sincere connection. The narcissist responds with ridicule, indifference, or even turns the criticism back on you. They do not view your vulnerability as an invitation to build trust. Instead, they see it as an opportunity to manipulate. They use what you share to make you doubt yourself, feel small, or maintain power in the relationship. Narcissists cannot confront their own vulnerability because doing so would require them to lower the perfect mask they have constructed. They fear that if others see the insecurities within, the image of an invincible person they've worked so hard to project will crumble. That is why they not only avoid their own vulnerability, but also attack yours. It reminds them of what they are trying to bury. Stoic philosophy offers profound advice. Do not seek validation from places incapable of providing it. When you share your vulnerability with a narcissist, you will not receive empathy or understanding, but rather manipulation and hurt. Instead of seeking connection from them, reserve your vulnerability for those who deserve it, those who genuinely care and value your emotions. More importantly, maintain your composure when faced with their behavior. When they attempt to exploit your emotions, remember that their actions do not define your worth but only reflect their inability to face themselves. Do not let the pain they cause close your heart to the world. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Keep your heart open, but only to what is worthy of entering." Narcissists hate vulnerability because it makes them feel insecure and out of control. But for you, vulnerability is not a weakness, it is a strength. Do not let their behavior convince you otherwise. Vulnerability, when shared with the right people, becomes a bridge to meaningful and authentic relationships where you can be yourself without fear or pretense. In a relationship with a narcissist, your vulnerability is not theirs to exploit, it is your reminder that they are not deserving of it. You cannot change a narcissist, it is neither your mission nor your responsibility. But you can change how you respond to them. Every time you refuse to engage in their games, stand firm in your boundaries, or choose indifference over reaction, you reclaim control of your life. And that is something they can never tolerate: a stronger, independent you, untethered from their influence, a you that is completely free. Marcus Aurelius once said, "We are not disturbed by what happens, but by our thoughts about it." In your journey of dealing with a narcissist, the most important goal is not to make them miserable, but to find peace within yourself. True freedom does not come from trying to change others, but from letting go of that desire and focusing on becoming the person you want to be. Remember, you are not here to please them, fix them, or live according to their expectations. You are here to live your own life, a life filled with value, meaning, and freedom from toxic relationships. Liberation does not begin when they change, it begins when you decide that you deserve better. Your next step is to maintain your boundaries, choose peace over chaos, and take charge of your life. True strength lies not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. And you are fully capable of doing just that with resilience and freedom.